I'm Edward October. The sound you hear is a four-wheel drive, pulling up to an address at the end of a winding mountain road in West Virginia. Somewhere nearby, there are robins at play in a copse of ash trees. This is the start of Octoberpod.
My name is Alana Dale Hearn, Hearn. My husband, Mr. William S. Hearn, or Bill. We reside in Pittsburgh, or rather, we did live there. I never expected West Virginia to be so damn humid, but I welcome it. Everything back home still seems so cold. Bill stumbles around the place as if he's in a trance, his gaze darting from a circle of ash trees to a twicket of rowan, then to holly bushes, and then to wild honeysuckle. He tells me about his cousins I've never heard much about, and how they used to play in the underbush when he was 5. That would have been over 4 decades ago now. Bill's several years older than me, so I would have been just a wee baby. Christ, we're getting old. But I'm still too young to be a grandmother, though I don't suppose that's a possibility anymore. He doesn't tell me, or doesn't have to tell me, because I can see the pain look in his eyes. But Bill's memories quickly turn to thoughts of Morgan, so I rush in to reroute his train of thought, as I've often had to do with my own thoughts and memories over the last 18 months. Hey, tell me about those cousins of yours. You said you used to run around your cousins and some kids from the neighbourhood. What neighbourhood would that be then? I'm looking around and I don't see any sign of neighbours, let alone a neighbourhood, for miles.
Oh, you'd be surprised. You never met my daddy-o. My Uncle Rob, that is.
Daddy-o is an affectionate term for an elder father in Gaelic. Very antiquated. Of course, the way Bill says it, it's very Americanized.
I guess it was another one of the old ways my ancestors brought with them when they came over from Ireland.
I lived my whole childhood in Dublin, and that stuff sounds alien, even to me. I can't imagine this very Irish family living out here in the woods with American hillbillies.
It was weird, for sure, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
I can see how Bill is drawn to family. Since the pandemic, he's lost everyone. His mother, his brother, his sister. It's just been me and Bill in our empty nest. Our son Morgan and his girlfriend Carrie used to visit. Until the accident, and now there's no one. No one at all. Out here, Bill had his cousins and aunts and uncles. They're all long gone too now, I suppose. When his uncle Robin went missing, and I mean literally disappeared, he was eventually declared dead. Strange. Bill was the man's only living relative, and so he inherited the farm, the house, and all of this land here in the wilderness.
Anyway, we'd all be running around, probably playing tag or something, running just as fast as our little legs could carry us, like we were running for our lives. I was just picturing all those little legs pumping so fast and carrying our little bodies around. It's kind of funny. You know, this was all we had back then. No parks, no malls, no movie theaters.
Not a single luxury, huh? Like Robinson Crusoe, just as primitive as can be.
Yeah, something like that.
Bill tells me of his magical time growing up here. Well, for the short time he was here. He says the air and the tree and the flowers were like his friends, who spoke to them along with the birds and the bugs. I can understand how a child wouldn't miss TV or shopping malls if he never had them, especially if he had this place and a rich inner life.
I feel sorry for kids these days. They have no wilderness to get lost in, no cousins to carry on with. Just the mundane life that suburbia has to offer. No tales from the country told by Daddy-o. No stories about the bird-headed man.
Hold up. What in hell is the bird-headed man?
That was just Daddy-o's version of Robin Hood. Very different from the movies, but very cool. I'll have to try and remember some of them and maybe write them down sometime.
I always found it a little on the nose, bordering on narcissistic, that Bill's uncle, named Robin, would tell Robin Hood stories. A strange man for sure. Bill walks over to a specific tree and stands before it for a moment like a sleepwalker. I hear him say something under his breath. I asked him what he said and he just shrugs it off as if I'd misheard. The farm is like its own family compound, with a big farmhouse, various sheds and other structures scattered among the brush like satellites orbiting a planet. As we walk towards the main house, Bill keeps pointing out all the best hide-and-seek spots he used to use as a kid. I can see in his eyes, he's 5 years old again, totally enthralled to this place and whatever magic it held for him. He gives me a grand tour of the house, telling me how he'd tuck himself into a ball under the bunk beds, or how he'd glue himself into the space behind the boys' wardrobe. Strange how Bill has so many stories of hiding. I think I can count on one hand all the times I played hide-and-seek during my whole life.
You can't see me. I'm invisible.
Robin, Ash, and Hood. Written especially for Octoberpod by Amber Jourdan. From an original idea by Edward October. Starring Nicola Bardon, creator-host of 'Tis Yourself podcast, with Edward October and Arthur Williams, co-host of Family Plot podcast.
At some point, I notice how low the sun is in the sky, and Bill becomes uneasy. Bill, what's the matter? You seem so unsettled.
I know. I'm all 6s and 7s. I'm just worried about whether Morgan will be able to find us all the way out here. He should have been here an hour ago. I guess he knows his way home.
Bill, darling, Morgan is dead, remember? He and Carrie, they died in a car accident. That was over a year ago, remember?
Oh, yes. That was silly of me. It's just us. I know it's just us out here. Just me and you now.
Yeah, just me and you.
It's so damn hard. I sometimes forget that he's not with us anymore. You know?
Bill's memories are getting worse. I wonder, is it part of the grieving process? He's too young to get dementia, isn't he? I should put a reminder on my phone to make an appointment with Dr. Wesley when we get home. I go into the kitchen and start unpacking the armloads of groceries we brought in, and I notice a cabinet with a dozen or more glass jars filled with clear liquid. Hey, what's in these jars? Kerosene for the lantern?
You probably could light a lantern or maybe degrease an engine with it. Whew. That, my dear, is good old-fashioned West Virginia corn liquor.
Do you mean poaching?
Something like that. His daddy-o's moonshine, except he called it his nog. Try some. You'll like it.
You mean you've had it before? I thought you haven't been here since you were a small child.
Now. Let's not be naive. Here.
I take a sip. It's bitter with a sweet undertaste like lingonberry jam, and it burns my throat. But it's a kind of pleasant sort of warmth. Foul stuff, to be sure, but not so foul that I can't drink it. As I take another swig, I imagine hearing a car door slam. I imagine that Morgan and Carrie are here, and Carrie's so massively pregnant that all she can do is waddle, and Morgan is capering at her side, fussing with her not to carry too much baggage. I breathe a sigh of relief. Just the thought of their presence, even if it is a lie, both calms me and underscores how dark and oppressive it feels here. Bill doesn't notice it, of course. He's already lost in his nostalgic reveries again. The more he sips that moonshine, the more he starts prattling on about his Uncle Robin. I refuse to call him Daddy-O. And living with the cousins and exploring the woods and playing hide and seek.
My heart is so full of love. I haven't allowed myself to feel anything approaching this kind of joy for so long.
18 months and 23 days. I got the call. It was 5:55 p.m. Morgan and Carrie were driving to pick out items for the baby registry when they got caught in a sudden rainstorm. Visibility was low. The road was slick. The car skidded and ploughed into oncoming traffic.
Now, all the bedrooms are upstairs, which honestly, the word bedroom isn't generous enough of a term. These jokers are huge and furnished with handmade wooden furniture. Each room has a wardrobe and 2 dressers. I used to hide behind that one. They got 2 bunk beds and 2 single beds, a large wooden toy chest, another good hide and seek spot, and 2 linen closets. But you and I don't have to share a room with anybody. We get to pick whichever room we like best in the whole compound. Let's unpack and tidy up a bit. Dust off some of this furniture. Maybe after dinner we can pour some drinks and I'll tell you some stories by the fire. You see, there's this one time.
Until this weekend, Bill has never spoken much about this place or his life here. But I remember one night, about a month ago, he had a nightmare that startled him awake. He sat there in the dark muttering, "Where's your favourite place?" And "I can't tell you that, I can't." I remember the next morning I asked him about it, and he said he dreamt about his uncle Robin, about his daddy-o. He was 5 years old, and his uncle was kneeling to the entrance at the room that he shared with his male cousins. In the dream, his uncle was swaying, like a bird balancing on an unsteady perch, and asked him, "Where's your favourite place to hide?" And Bill's 5-year-old dream self said, "Oh, Daddy-o, I can't tell you that. You might find me." And then Daddy-o's grin turned into a grimace, and his mouth filled with jagged, big bad wolf teeth. And that's when Bill woke up from his dream.
What's your favorite hiding place?
After dinner, I stoke up a fire, using a pile of old newspapers for kindling. Some of the headlines catch my eye, like "New hope given to hospital after tragedy," "Bridge collapse prompts infrastructure concerns," "Newly appointed city planner announces bridge project," "Rampant COVID-19 outbreak kills entire household." Once the fire starts to roar, Bill sits in the big chair, Daddy-o's throne, as he calls it. His head is high like a king in the castle. He waits for me to settle in the rocking chair before he starts telling me the old stories his uncle used to tell.
Long ago, before we were here, before we crossed the sea to be mountain people, back when our folk lived in peace with the land and her creatures, when we worshipped the stars and the sun and lived with the seasons, this time ago, we followed the ways of the druid. Many rituals were held, marking the passing of seasons and honoring the working of the animals of the field. One of these was the crowning of the Robin King. Every spring, as the sun returned and the world was reborn, the robin would fly down from the world tree and mark one of our own for each ceremony. The druid would prepare the ash folly for the ceremony. And we did too. My family, when I was a boy living here, had an ash folly every year in that circle of ash trees that you can see through the window there. The chosen would be prepared before the ceremony, eat a ceremonial diet, drink teas brewed from medicinal herbs, and eat jams from December's blackthorn and hawthorn berry harvests. I even heard tell that some of these foods that they ritually consumed had hallucinogenic properties. Then they would toil to ensure that they would sleep easily that night. On the day of the ceremony, the chosen is awakened by the attendance of the druid, and final preparations are made for what's to take place. The chosen is dressed in a reddish-orange tunic with a brown long coat over, cinched at the waist with a rope the chosen made during their toil the day prior. There are no breaks allowed in their work, and you can see the blood in the rope from the fingertips as they cracked and bled. The chosen is brought out for the ceremony, which is filled with music and dancing. On this day, the chosen one is ready to give everything as long as he is given something in return. He told the druid he wanted to be rewarded appropriately for his offering. And the druid told him he would give the boy power beyond his knowing. So together they walk into the folly of ash, and in the center, the chosen boy stops and stands still. The druid walks to the east and grabs a parcel, coming to the center and to the boy with both hands full. The boy looks in horror as the druid raises above his head a giant hood, covering the chosen's head with a robin's mask, tiny black beak and beady black eyes. And the druid takes thread and begins to sew the hood onto the boy's body while chanting, "All is new. I am reborn, imbued with life not yet fully worn. I am invisible. The hand of the gods do not see me." And the drums continue and the instruments play their tune while everyone dances and sings in time with the little boy's screams.
This is your uncle's idea of a children's bedtime story. I think I'm going to have nightmares.
Oh, no. Just wait. Once I finish, you'll understand how wonderful it is. The hooded one, chosen by the robin, begins dancing with everyone else. No chosen one has ever survived their sacrifice. The robin hooded one walks through the throng of people until they are face to face. The druid shudders. The blood running down from the hood stitches give the tunic and long coat markings that resemble the shape of feathers.
You thought you could escape your promise, Druid.
And as he says this, he pulls the druid into himself, disappearing into the folds of the hood. He reaches up, removes the hood of the robin, and looks upon his village, and the people see only their druid. All is as it should be, and they continue through the night with their revelry, celebrating the sacrifice of the chosen one and the prosperity it would bring them for the new year. He would redistribute the blessings of those with abundance and bring fortune to the unfortunate. The hooded robin oversaw the well-being of his village, and rarely did anyone have to die anymore as sacrifice. Rarely.
On day 2 at the old homestead, Bill finds himself suffering from an upset stomach. I try my best to nurse him back to health with gallons of herbal tea. I suspect all the nog he drank yesterday is to blame. I tell him to rest, and he naps all day. A few times I look in on him. I see him tossing in the bed as if he's having a nightmare. His legs are pumping, as if in the dream he's running as fast as he can.
Running for my life.
Day 3 at the old homestead, and Bill seems to be feeling better, feeling more like himself.
I owe it all to the herbal tea and the toast and jam you fed me yesterday. No remedy like a down-home remedy, I always say.
Bill's restless and goes out to clear out some weeds and some overgrowth. After spending all day yesterday in bed, he feels like a break is the last thing he needs until the work is done. Bill could stand a little exercise. He clears bush until he reaches the east side of the property, over by the ashes and the oaks and rowans, almost like it was when he used to live here. Day 4 at the old homestead, and Bill says,
I feel like I'm getting back into the swing of life again. My sickness was just a momentary setback, but I think I made up for it yesterday, trying to give this property a new life again.
Well, you smell quite revolting. I think you've been working too much and not eating enough.
No time. Where's that flannel shirt I packed? You know, the one with the orange and red checks.
Are you a lumberjack now?
That's just who I am out here. No time for business attire out there in the brush.
I'll get it for you. But I've taken the time to cook breakfast, so I expect you to eat. I found a bunch of recipes in your uncle's den when we were cleaning out the other day amongst some other things. So why don't we dig in and then we'll head back out.
Well, I'm well worked, well fed, well rested. I believe I can get used to this.
Day 5. Bill wasn't in bed when I got up this morning. He woke with the dawn and went out to the woods, clearing the brush. He's dug a fire pit and he's using to burn all the wood and the brush he's cleared out. And I'm alone in this house, alone with all of its ghosts. I pretend that Morgan and Kerry are just in the next room, just out of sight. I don't feel so alone. I eavesdrop on their conversations waiting for the kettle to boil, and it sounds like they're talking about what to name the baby. Carrie is suggesting names like John and Lewis and Dana. But Morgan, the names that Morgan suggests are odd, ancient. Like Balor and Angus, Epi, Yoster and Bridget. Aren't those the names of Bill's weird cousins? Sometimes I see Morgan at the end of the hallway. He's speaking to someone in the children's bedrooms. It's not Carrie he's speaking to though. When he sees me, he turns away and walks into the bedroom and closes the door. I know not to follow him. He wouldn't like that. He never liked me to pry, but sometimes a mother has to pry. If your son doesn't tell you what's going on in his life, you have to pry. I never would have heard about Carrie being pregnant if I hadn't insisted that Morgan tell me. What a blessing that would have been. Welcoming a little babby into our lives. Bill is outside. I can see him through the grimy upstairs windows. He's only pretending to do yard work. I don't know what he's doing. Communing with nature? He keeps flitting between a thicket of young rowans and a circle of ash trees. He won't come in until I cook dinner, and only if I call him to the table. He'd stay out all night long if left to his own devices. It's now midnight and Bill hasn't come to bed yet. He got up for a glass of water around 10 and I haven't seen him since. I hear floorboards creaking upstairs. I recognise the sound of Bill shifting his weight from foot to foot, but I can tell someone else is with him, someone with a lighter step. Outside, the fire pit in the woods is still smouldering and the coals are painting the edges of the ash trees with their faint orange light. I don't think I like it here. It was much more bearable when the kids were here. I haven't heard from Carrie since this morning. Maybe she's gone to have her baby. Surely Morgan's with her. Surely. But if Morgan is with Carrie, then who's downstairs with Bill? I know I'm dreaming because I'm not in West Virginia now. I'm in our old house in Pittsburgh, in the bedroom that Morgan grew up in. I'm a little girl again, no more than 11 or 12. But Bill is standing over me and he's old and plump, like he is now.
This is a good hiding place,
Bill says, and he points to the corner near my son's dresser. I crouch into the corner, make myself as small as I can. I can see a peeling Big Bird sticker on the side of the dresser. I run my fingers over it, taking in the knowledge that Morgan's little fingers must have stuck it there, and that comforts me.
Don't make any noise. And don't tell anyone this is your best hiding place.
I won't, Daddy-O, I promise. I wait for ages tucked into the corner behind the dresser. After a long time of being silent and afraid to breathe, I poke my head out to see him, the bird-headed man. He stands in the doorway, wearing a hooded cloak that looks like it was fashioned out of tattered olive green rags. The hood appears to be crudely sewn to his skin. A bloody red handprint stains his bare chest. His face has a beak. At first I think it's like a mask or like a plague doctor, but no. The face is some grotesque bird-like thing. When my gaze locks onto him, his eyes start to glow in an eerie green light. I jump from my hiding place and run. I run for my life. And then I wake up and my legs are still pumping, still running beneath sweat-drenched sheets. It's day 6 at the old homestead and I find myself in an empty nest. Bill is nowhere to be found and even the ghosts are quiet. Was it yesterday morning that Morgan and Carrie were here talking about baby names? Or was it the day before? It's so damn hard to keep up with the days and the memories. Leastwise, I hope they're not going to call their child Bridget or Yoster. Even the floorboards are silent this morning.
Grandma, come outside. We found a bunch of cool stuff down in the cellar. And we found more of the special wine Granddad was drinking. We're throwing a special party. Come quick.
Grandma, that child, Carrie, must have had the baby after all. No wonder she and Morgan have been away. Oh, my grandbaby is here and he's sounds so big and grown up. I burst out the front door and I see the ash folly. It looks like Bill described it in his childhood memories. Colourful streamers run from tree to tree, adding orange and red and green and yellow waves to the breeze. Lanterns and other admittedly strange ornaments hang from the lower branches. Music floats in from the air up to us on the porch and it reminds me of my dreams and of the awful dreams Bill had told me of. Dreams of being terrified running from the trees, running from the person who was it in some childhood game. I see Morgan and Carrie and they're laughing. I see my grandson, he must be 11 or 12 years old already. Oh my God, how time flies. It seems like only last year he was just a baby. Funny, I can't remember his name.
Balor, Grandma. My name is Balor. Don't you remember? You were there at my naming ritual.
Yes, darling, I'm sorry. Grandma's memories are getting worse day by day. I see my children and a dozen others. These must be Bill's weird cousins, who I thought were long dead, but there they are, down below, dancing, singing, drinking, feasting. And I see Bill. He's facing away from me with his face nearly pressed against one of the ash trees. The kids squeal in delight and take off, running to different sides of the circle of trees. My grandson takes my hand and leads me down to his mother and father. Morgan and Carrie still bear the scars from their accident, but they're smiling and they're laughing again. The three of them pull me deeper into the folly. But now I see that Bill is not alone. The bird-headed man, Daddy-O Robin, is with him. His tattered hooded cloak flutters in the breeze, blending into the colourful streamers and billowing to obscure Bill's form. He grabs Bill's elbow so hard I can almost feel it.
No, you're dead. I thought I didn't have to hide no more.
Daddy-O Robin's eyes flash emerald green and he places a large medieval helm of black iron on Bill's head. A faceplate clanks shut, hiding Bill's face behind it.
Granddad is the chosen one now.
Daddy-O Robin walks among the children, and who now appear as they truly are. Undead creatures soaked in the blood of their mortal wounds. Robin runs his hands over them, and Morgan and Carrie, they're bleeding too. The ghastly red liquid seeping from wounds I thought had healed. With his hands now dripping with this gore and scarlet horror, the bird-headed man walks back to Bill. Bill's face is hidden by this weird helm, but he nods to Daddy-O Robin and rips open his stained flannel shirt to bare his chest. Daddy-O splays his fingers like the wings of a bird and stamps Bill's chest with the blood.
Now Granddad has the red breast of the robin.
I'm too terrified to run, too frightened to hide. What's he doing to poor Bill? Daddy-O Robin wraps his arms around Bill and pulls him into an embrace. He holds him close, tighter and tighter. The embrace keeps going and going until Robin disappears into Bill. The tattered, empty, hooded cloak flutters to the ground, as weightless as a feather. Bill looks down at him, but it's not really... well, not my Bill anyway. He picks up the cloak, drapes it over his shoulders and pulls on the hood of the Robin. His hands reach out and waves to our children, our grandson and his young cousins, all of them unliving, all of them undying. They laugh and dance to their strange music and drink the strange wines and spirits from the cellar. The Robin speaks to him with Bill's voice.
All is as it should be.
All is as it should be.
And we all dance into the throng of our revelling family.
It's intermission time, folks. I'm your host, Mr. Edward October. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to sit down with friend of the show and frequent guest, Tara, and her three Spooked Girls co-host, Jessica, for an episode of their new spin-off podcast, the Social Séance Society. It was a fun, freewheeling discussion that touched on all things horror, especially the horror films of the 1990s. Have a listen.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for joining us today here on Social Séance Society.
Thank you for having me. I was saying before we started recording that I feel like I know you guys, even though this is really the first time I'm actually speaking to you real time. But yes, I am Edward October. I'm the creator host of Octoberpod, which if you listen to it as a podcast, it's Octoberpod AM. If you watch it on YouTube, it's Octoberpod home video or just Octoberpod.
Oh, and if you guys listen to Three Spooked Girls, he is who you hear before the beginning of every single episode.
Oh, yes.
He does our amazing content warning, so you guys might think he sounds familiar. That is why.
I do a couple of those, and I like to say if you ever need anybody to tell you not to listen to your podcast, I'm your guy. I love saying, switch it off now, turn to a different show. I just get the biggest kick out of that.
Go over here instead. No, just kidding. So, to back it up even further, do you remember what was like your first taste into horror that like sucked you in, whether that was like as a kid or later in life?
So it seems like as long as I can remember, I always loved Halloween. So because of that, that sort of made me sort of like kind of interested in spooky stuff. But, you know, I was growing up in the 80s. You would see Nightmare on Elm Street commercials on primetime TV, and scary shit like that was kind of like ubiquitous. And so my parents kind of tried to shield me from that stuff for a long time. And I was very like kind of like a scaredy kid about scary stuff. Yet I loved Halloween. And then I sort of discovered Godzilla and King Kong and Creature from the Black Lagoon and stuff like that. And so I kind of became a monster kid between that and loving Halloween. I was the kid that liked the dinosaurs and the monsters and stuff like that. And then when I got a little bit older, I was in 4th grade, my dad started telling me about Christopher Lee, how he thought that the Christopher Lee Dracula was better than the Bela Lugosi, and he's telling me how awesome Christopher Lee was as Dracula. And I'm like, oh. So then I started going through the TV guide and looking for how can I find the Christopher Lee movies, because and Hammer horror movies, because that was Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing. And those, when I was growing up, were hard to find in your local video store. So I'd have to hunt through the TV guide, and usually I would find them playing on TBS late at night. And so I had to figure out how to program the VCR to turn on at like 1:38 a.m. or something like that, and then record the thing. And always the clock on the VCR would be wrong. And so I would start like 15 minutes in.
Oh, that's terrifying.
The Evil of Frankenstein. It wasn't until, I swear to God, I love The Evil of Frankenstein. It's my favorite Hammer Frankenstein movie. And it wasn't until I got the Shout Factory Blu-ray a few years ago that I actually got to see the whole first 15 minutes of it after having the movie memorized from watching it on TBS. Oh, and the other thing about TBS, they showed an Americanized version of it. So it's a British film. For American TV, they cut out like all of the like mild gore that was in it, and they replaced it with scenes with American actors doing sort of a fairly unrelated subplot. I just thought that was how the movie was supposed to go. And I'm oh yeah. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I didn't know until much later in life, like, no, this isn't the thing. And now that the American footage is hard to come across, and I'm like, oh my God, I'd give my eye teeth to have the VHS that I recorded off of TBS with the first 15 minutes missing. And, you know, that 15 minutes would have been filled with something like, you know, wrestling or, you know, whatever was on TBS before.
Right. Or some infomercial.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I got into it. So after that, like, I was hooked with Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman. I was always more of a Hammer guy than a Universal guy. Then when I was 11, my mom suggested that I watch The Omen. And
it's real heavy-headed.
God.
What's funny about that is I'm an adoptee, and like, my parents are great. I was very fortunate to be adopted into a loving family. But, you know, my mom was like, oh yeah, you should watch The Omen. That's really scary. I think you'd dig it. I'm adopted, and The Omen is all about closed adoption. Like, doesn't work without there being a closed adoption and the adopted kid being stigmatized for being different. So, like, okay, interesting choice, Mom. And the other thing is that, you know, I had a very religious upbringing. My mom is super religious to this day. Yep. Twinsies. I'm not so much religious now, but my mom still is. But back in the day, like, I was very much like choir boy type kid. And the Omen movies and The Exorcist, you have to be like extra religious to be really freaked out by those. And so I watched The Omen, and it scared the shit out of me. You know, the soundtrack to that movie is like all of this like satanic chanting, and I would go to bed at night and try to go to sleep, and I would just hear that Ave Satani in my head. Cannot fucking sleep. But what I did is what I do with all other horror movies that scare me. I watched it until I became desensitized to it. And now, you know, the Blair Witch Project. I was in college when the Blair Witch Project came out, and we went to see it at like a midnight showing. Me and my buddy Sam, shout out to Sam. We went out to the Blair Witch Project, and the midnight showing scared the shit out of me. I was like, you know, like 19, 20, I forget how old I would have been at the time.
Like their age, right?
Old enough to not be scared of rocks and sticks in the woods. We left the theater and we were about to go home, and we lived like way out in the country, both of us, dark. And I said, "Hey man, you hungry? Let's go to Perkins or something and grab some pancakes." So here it is, 12 o'clock. We're going out to Perkins to get, midnight pancakes, and we sit and we eat pancakes and we drive home. And I'm like, "Hey man, you just want to drive around for a little while?" Because I was scared to go back home and go back through the house by myself. And finally he dropped me off. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and like I said, we're out in the country, pitch black, not a light on in the house. I have to go in through the basement garage door, up the stairs into this dark house. I was like so scared of the Blair Witch, and I swear to God, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. My dad is like working swing shift. My mom is home asleep. I wake my mom up and I'm like, "Hey mom, I rented U.S. Marshals with Tommy Lee Jones in it the other day. Do you want to watch U.S. Marshals with me, mom?" And she's like, "What?" But anyway, yeah, I was so scared that like I woke my mother up to sit up with me and watch a Tommy Lee Jones movie.
When you guys went and saw it, was it still not known it wasn't fake? Like, was it still being presented as like a real movie, or did they? I don't know how that worked out. I just know for a while with the marketing. Oh my God.
So when we went to see it, I think we knew that it was fake, but it was really kind of the first found footage movie that we had ever seen. There had been found footage movies that came out before that, but this one is the first one that really came out, and it was like, we are hardcore trying to sell the fact that this is literal footage that we literally found. So the thing that really sold it was that ahead of the release of the movie, Sci-Fi Channel did this thing called Curse of the Blair Witch.
Oh, I remember that.
So it was supposed to be the true crime, true paranormal documentary, like Unsolved Mysteries presents the Blair Witch Project. And so it would intersperse footage from the movie with interviews with people who were pretending to be Josh and Heather and Michael's parents, brothers, and it's like, "Oh yeah, he was really quiet. He was a quiet kid, but he could raise hell." I'm like, "Oh, she could light up a room." All of these true horror, true crime, cliches. But, all of the lore, like the tapes being found in the foundation of a house where the sediment meant that it had to have been buried hundreds of years ago. Like that was all in people's heads from watching that. And so I think we knew that it was fake, but it still worked its magic on us. But I know that there were people at the time who went to see it. I remember overhearing a conversation with some girl saying, "I saw the previews of it and I don't want to see it because all those screams, those are real. They're really screaming."
Aww.
So, yeah. So anyway, the Blair Witch is another one that I had to watch over and over and over to get desensitized to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my Blair Witch experience.
I love that because I don't know, we haven't talked to anyone, and like off the top of my head, you're the only person I know that like actually was able to like go see it in theaters and like experience it and everything. So I love that. Horror is so mainstream, but it's also like not at the same time. Especially, I feel like even when I was going through like my teen years and stuff in like the 2000s and whatnot, it was still weird to like horror for the most part. Like it wasn't, everybody loved it. Like I'm so glad so many people love it now and are more open to it now, or we're just all admitting it now. I don't know which, but I love that.
I'm definitely of a generation where people were still like, "Why do you like that stuff? Like, what is it about that you like?" Because people just wouldn't get it. But to me, it's just like comfort food to me. Like I will, I have sat down many a time with a plate of microwave ravioli and watched Dawn of the Dead, and it not faze me. Because of the Blair Witch Project coming out in a region-locked Blu-ray, and I just had to have it, I got a region-free player just for this Blair Witch Project that came out.
Oh, okay.
Because of that, it's opened up a whole new world of stuff that I can check out. So I've been checking out like all of these British discs. I've been getting into like British TV horror and making lots of new discoveries, stuff that's never been released in the US. So stuff like the Quatermass BBC shows and the Ghost Stories for Christmas and all that stuff, which you can't really get legally in the U.S. I've been getting into it and eating all of that stuff up. I recently discovered the Bloodthirsty trilogy, which is 3 vampire movies made by Toho, who are the people that do the Godzilla movies. Mm-hmm. So imagine like the creative teams behind a Godzilla movie making a Christopher Lee Hammer Films style vampire movie.
I love it.
The vampires do like a strange Eastern vampire type thing. Like they'll kill someone and peel their face off and use it as a mask. But anyway, those are really, I'd never really heard of those. The movies are Lake of Dracula, Evil of Dracula, and I want to say Legacy of Dracula. They're really cool. Worthwhile. But for new movies, they are making a sequel to It Follows called They Follow, which right off the bat, I love it when the sequel is just you pluralize the first one. So like Alien, Aliens, Predator, Predators. Uh-huh. I was just listening to your last Social Séance Society episode, and you guys were talking about It Follows. And I'm like, but I love that movie.
Oh, God.
What I loved about it is sort of the dreamlike quality of it, because it does a really great job of doing dream logic that you don't really think about until after it. You know, like the movie starts off, she's swimming in a pool, but all the leaves are brown. And then when they get up and go out, they're wearing these heavy, heavy winter coats and the awesome clamshell reader. And it's just like all these like weird, dreamy, you never see the faces of any adults who aren't it. And it's just like one of those like Easter eggy, dream logic-y movies that I really like. So I have high hopes for They Follow. Did you guys see Nosferatu?
I don't think it's a Jess movie, I will say. I am wanting to watch it, and I look at it every damn time I'm on Peacock. I'm gonna watch it. I just haven't. Long answer short, I haven't watched it yet, but I plan to. But I want to be able to, like, not be interrupted, give it my full attention, you know? So I'm like, I have to find the right day. But yes, I really want to watch it. I've heard good things. We had Shelby from Scare You to Sleep, and she hyped it up and said it was, you know, great, especially if you do like those movies with like kind of like the creature feature type of characters and things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing it for sure. Yeah.
I think you would dig it.
I think so. Yeah. It seems my vibe for sure. My problem is I've learned my spouse likes very specific type of horror movies. And I feel like when it's kind of like slower a little, I don't know if this one is, but like when movies are kind of slower, she'll like be like, oh my gosh, it's so boring. And then I have to like hear her yapping. And I'm like, no, I need to be left alone with this movie because I just want to watch it.
I thought it was way too long.
I've heard that.
It's over 2 hours long, and I think you could have cut like good 20 or 30 minutes out of it. I really do. And I think a tighter cut of it would have made a bigger impact with it. And it's basically the same story as the silent film. The silent film is like, 90 minutes long?
Right.
They don't even have dialogue to work with. I think that horror movies really benefit from a tight runtime. Mm-hmm. Dawn of the Dead, I think, is the exception that proves the rule because it's kind of like an epic adventure, really. It's a comic book movie with zombies in it, so I think it can get away with being long. But like the movies that have scared me the most, usually, you know, like Blair Witch Project, Texas Chainsaw, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, all of those are under 2 hours, and some of them are like, you know, 80 minutes. Like Blair Witch Project is barely 90 minutes long. And I think that with a horror movie, you want to get in and out really quick. Mm-hmm. So that you have like a real gut punch.
For sure.
I think the lack of explanation in horror movies like intensifies the scare. Like if you spend too much time setting up the horror in a horror movie, it takes you out of the scare. I mean, I'm the resident like scaredy cat on our show, but like for the ones that I do like, I don't want to sit with it for like 14 hours and like learn everyone's backstory and things like that. I just want to be like, one, I want it over. That's the first and foremost. I just want like, I can be like, this movie is an hour and a half long. I'm like 45 minutes into it. I have, 45 minutes left to go. I can do like in my brain. I'm like, I can do this. Like I'm good. And it's scary. Like silent movies were really scary because like,
oh yeah, what
was happening is inferred. Like, yes, there's some words on screens to like explain, but like most of it is like an inference of fear. Like, I haven't seen it. It is on my to watch list. But like, I was kind of hoping that was what was going to be in it. Because when I was young, I saw the silent movie.
The Werner Herzog version with Klaus Kinski is scary too. All three of them are scary, and they're all very faithful to the same plot, and they're all very different movies. It's really strange. But yeah, you're right. Like, a silent film can be scary in ways that just clips from the Dutch silent film Heksen. If you've ever seen those, it's just like anytime you ever see silent footage of like the devil or like a black mass or something, it's probably from the movie Heksen, and it's like really creepy and unsettling. I think my favorite David Lynch movie is a silent short film, and I think it's just the scariest thing he's ever done. It's called, I think it's like Premonitions Following an Evil Deed or something like that. And it's a minute long. It's a short film. It was made with a Lumiere silent film camera. So like the first model of motion picture camera ever made, he used an antique camera with antique film stock to make it. Just a minute of footage, and it's creepy as hell. It's on YouTube. Just type up like David Lynch Lumiere and you'll find it. Like, you can do things with silent film like that are just really unsettling that you can't do. Roger Ebert said that of any film genre, horror films lost the most when they transitioned to sound, and I think that's probably true. You know, you can just get way more dreamlike, you know, in a silent film.
For sure.
I like slasher movies, and I like that kind of like horror, like jump scare. I'm not really like into anything kind of demonic-y. I kind of like freak out because I also was raised extremely religious, like to the point where like I went and saw Paranormal Activity, had a very similar experience to your Blair Witch, where I dropped my friend off at home and I called another friend and was like, can I come to your house? Because my parents were home. I lived in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to be in my house by myself right now. And I slept with a Bible for like a month because I was like, fuck this shit. Because I was living, like, I had moved back home. So I wasn't in my bedroom. I was in my brother's bedroom because of like people living in my parents' house. And it was like an attic space, but it was like an A-frame. Like, it was the top of the house.
Oh my God, yeah. So you can only stand up in the middle.
Terrifying. Terrible. So it's the link of the house, but like, you couldn't see the other end except for there was like a window, and of course it's pitch black outside. So everything was just like more intense up there, because if you got too close to the wall, you felt like you were being like encased in something. So like, I very much slept on like the edge of my bed, and it was just not great. And then I finally told my parents, like, I can't live up there. Like, you have to make other people move.
Well, that was you going to bed with the Bible. It reminds me of the scene from The Omen where they go into the priest's shack, and he's got like the room wallpapered with pages from the Bible because he was too scared of like the Omen evil getting into him.
That was step 2, I think. If it's not done. And I remember like telling my dad, my parents were very religious, so my parents prayed over it, and they were like, you shouldn't see these type of movies. And that's kind of when I realized, like, because of my religious trauma, these movies fuck with my head. And I'm like, anything that's kind of like demonic-y, like, I'm like, I don't want to do. It's just not a good, I mean, Tara knows because I'll watch it and I'll be fine. And then suddenly, like, I'm a terrible sleeper as it is, but then like, I'm not sleeping at all. And I'm a little bit like more anxious. Tara has like seen me through the years, like being like, oh shit, she shouldn't have watched that movie.
I bet you haven't seen Longlegs yet.
Have not. That would be accurate. No, I do like creature features. I think they're great. I love a good slasher. Like, sometimes when I just want to like zone out, I'll just put Scream on, and people are like, how could you watch that? I'm like, it's not as scary as you think. And Tara and I talk about like true crime things that are real, that are much more terrifying.
I get a much more true crime vibe from the Scream movies than a general slasher vibe. When I watch slasher movies, I always root for the killer. I mean, especially if it's like Friday the 13th. I hate everybody in the Friday the 13th movies except for Jason. So like, he's the hero of those movies for me.
Jason was just a misunderstood and an abused child who grew up to like,
yeah, man,
be brainwashed to murder people. I mean, my favorite franchise is Halloween, and so I never really root for Michael Myers, but I don't necessarily root against him.
I think that's the best, for my money. I think that's the best slasher franchise. I think, like, I love my Jason movies, but I think there are more interesting Halloween movies than not. Friday the 13th, for example, has quite a few stinkers in it, but I think pound for pound, you get better quality with Halloween.
And I like how many different timelines there are with Halloween, so you literally can find whatever one for whatever mood you're into, because some of them are just so insane and just way off. I think that graphic that's like, here, let's put all these together and which one's actually good.
Right? So whoever made that graphic, just chef's kiss, because it literally, because everyone, I would just say about everyone, but like people who aren't really a true fan of like the Halloween franchise just kind of assumes that it like starts at one and then it's the same timeline all the way through. And it's like, no. And then like you factor in like the Rob Zombie ones. I mean, my literally favorite horror movie is Halloween H2O, because one, the premise of this show is so funny to me, because it's like, you have this like overly paranoid mom who's obviously told her son, like, my brother tried to murder me and he's locked in an institution, and it's this whole thing. So funny to me. And
she lets him go out of the house with that hair.
And LL Cool J's like
so good.
His character in this is like one of my favorites. He's like literally just the worst security guard ever. He's just ignoring everything and reading his girlfriend his romance novel. I'm just like, you would be so fired. Just so fired. You just let the kids go off, and she's like, why did you let him go into town? And he's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, fine, whatever. And I'm like, fire his ass. Like I'm sorry, I'm getting heated about this. I need to not.
No, I love it.
The Michael Myers mask in that one looks so derpy too.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's pretty bad. I've got a funny Halloween H2O story.
Tell us.
I'm also old enough to have seen Halloween H2O in theaters. I was really excited for it because it's Kevin Williamson who did the Scream movies. I was into the first 3 Scream movies in a big bad way, and then after Scream 3 I lost interest. But so me and my same buddy who went to see Blair Witch Project with me, we were like, all right, we're gonna go see some Halloween H2O. Let's do it. This is our jam. So we go and we made plans to go see it. And he at the time was in a toxic relationship with his girlfriend, and he was on the phone fighting with his girlfriend the whole time. I was waiting on him to go to the movies for like an hour or so, and it was just me and his sister sitting alone in the house waiting on him, like, all right, come on dude, wrap it up, you don't need to be fighting with her anymore. Like, it was bad. So he's like, no man, I love her, I gotta, all this stuff. She's horrible. He's like, oh no, I love her, I'm gonna marry her, I gotta make this right. I'm like, no you don't, dude. Come watch Halloween. It'll be great. And finally I was like, you know what? Fuck it. If you don't get off that phone, I'm just gonna take your sister. Me and your sister are gonna go watch Halloween, and we're gonna have a fun time, and you can sit here and be a miserable sack of shit talking to your miserable sack of shit girlfriend all night. And that's what we did. I went. I took his little sister to go see Halloween with me, and we sat like we were, Tom Servo and Crow T. Robot from Mystery Science Theater, watching this silly old Halloween movie, and had a lovely time while my buddy stayed home being miserable. So anyway, that's my Halloween.
I do love that there is a parallel in the movie, that it's like LL Cool J's like character, like his girlfriend is like, that relationship is so toxic that she's like, you can't get off the phone with me.
That was literally that. It was literally that. And it was, she was one of these people that was like, she wanted a ring. They had just gotten out of college, and she was just like, I need a ring. She was like giving him the hard sell for a ring. And that parallel never even, like, I never noticed that before, but you're right.
The new ones, they completely erase everything else. Like, it's like, oh, we started over, and you're like, but you didn't start over, but you start. I'm like, okay, like,
but you died in one of them, Lori.
Also, facts. Like, I mean, here's the thing: if Michael Myers can come back from the dead every single time, so can Lori.
Hell yeah.
It's apparently their family legacy is to die and come back.
Plot holes and common sense. If they were there in slashers and stuff, the movies would be 2 minutes long.
Right.
So I love it, and I don't question it ever. I just accept it.
continuity is boring. As long as, like, the movie you're watching is true to itself with continuity, who cares?
Right.
For real. We're in that, like, we're getting the reboots and continuations of a lot of those, you know, movies from decades ago, and I am here for it, and I love it.
Listen to the full episode to find out what makes me the gossip girl of horror podcasting, hear the secret origins of Octoberpod, and a lot of other groovy stuff. I'll provide links to the full episode and to the show's social media accounts in the show notes. Social Séance Society, as well as Tara and Jessica's true crime and paranormal show, Three Spooked Girls, can be found wherever you get podcasts. And now that intermission time is over, friends, sit tight, because Act 2 of Octoberpod starts now. If a werewolf is slain as a man, will his half-soul haunt his slayer forever? Find out in our next thrilling tale, In the Big Bad Woods, adapted especially for Octoberpod by John Iger, from In the Forest of Villefert by Robert E. Howard, originally published in the August 1925 issue of Weird Tales. The sun had set, and the great shadows came striding over the forest. In the weird twilight of a late summer day, I saw the path ahead glide on among the mighty trees and disappear. I shuddered and glanced fearfully over my shoulder. Miles behind lay the nearest village, miles ahead the next. I strode on, then stopped short, grasping my rapier at the sound of some small beast breaking twigs beneath its footfalls. No matter. I reassured myself that there was nothing in the forest to be frightened of, only deer and the like. The twilight faded into dusk. Stars began to blink, and the leaves of the trees murmured in the faint breeze. I stopped short again, my sword leaping to my hand, for just ahead, around a curve of the path, someone was singing in a language that was unknown to me. I stepped behind a great tree, and the cold sweat beaded my forehead. Then the singer came in sight, a tall, thin man, vague in the twilight. I shrugged, for I fear no man. I greeted him, sword drawn, until I was convinced he meant no harm. I explained that my caution was born out of fear of bandits. I am a stranger in this forest after all. I asked the tall, thin man about the road to Villefert, and he told me I'd missed the fork that would take me there, but offered to guide me to it, if only I could abide his company. "You will find me an impeccable guide," said he, "for I come from a family of great hunters." He did not offer his hand. During all this time, I could not make out his face in the waning light of dusk. He must have sensed me staring, for he laughed and said, "My face, sir, is little to look upon." He stepped into a shaft of orange light, and I could see he was wearing a mask. "I wear this mask to fulfill a vow," he explained. "In fleeing a pack of hounds, I vowed that if I escaped, I would wear this mask for a certain time." "Hounds?" I inquired. "Wolves," he quickly answered. "I said wolves." I told him that wolves were the subject of much discussion in the village. The villagers had tried to dissuade me from taking this path on account of a marauding wolf But my business was of great importance, and I needed to make haste to the border. "Here, the path branches to Villefair," said my companion, and I saw a narrow, crooked path that I had not seen when I passed it before. It led in amid the darkness of the trees. I shuddered, but told the tall, masked man to lead on. So narrow was the path that we walked single file, he leading. I looked well at him. He was taller, much taller than I, and thin, wiry. He was dressed in a costume that smacked of Spain. A long rapier swung at his hip. He walked noiselessly, with long, easy strides. Then he began to talk of travel and adventure. He spoke of the many lands he'd seen and oceans he'd traversed, and many strange things he'd witnessed in his travels. So we talked and went farther and farther into the forest. I presumed that he was French, and yet he had a very strange accent that was neither French nor Spanish nor English nor like any language I had ever heard. Some words he slurred strangely, and some he could not pronounce at all. "This path is not often used, is it?" I asked. "Not by many," he answered, and laughed silently. I shuddered. It was very dark, and the leaves whispered together among the branches. "A fiend haunts this forest," I said. "So the peasants say," he answered, "but I have roamed it oft, and have never seen his face." Then he began to speak of strange creatures in the darkness, and the moon rose, and shadows glided among the trees. He looked up at the moon and said we needed to reach our destination before the moon is at its zenith. We hurried along the trail. I told him the villagers are convinced a werewolf stalked these woods, and we debated the subject for some time. "The old women say," said he, "that if a werewolf is slain while a wolf, then he is slain. But if he is slain as a man, then his half-soul will haunt his slayer forever." And then he hastened his already quick pace. We came into a small moonlit glade, and the stranger stopped, saying we should pause for a while. "This is a fair glade," said he, "as good as a banquet hall, and many times I have feasted here. Look, I will show you a dance." And he began bounding here and there, anon flinging his head and laughing silently, as a madman laughs. While he danced his weird dance, I looked about me. The trail went not on, but stopped in the glade. I encouraged the man to cease his dancing and lead on. "Do you not smell the rank, hairy scent that hovers about the glade? Wolves must surely den here. Perhaps they are about us and are gliding upon us even now." My companion dropped on all fours, bounded higher than my head, and came toward me with a strange, slinking motion. "That dance is called the Dance of the Wolf," said he, and my hair bristled. "Keep off!" I stepped back and let out a screech that set echoes shuddering through the forest. He leaped for me, and though a sword hung at his belt, he did not draw it. My rapier was half out when he grasped my arm and flung me headlong. I dragged him with me, and we struck the ground together. Wrenching a hand free, I jerked off the mask. A shriek of horror broke from my lips. Beast eyes glittered beneath that mask. White fangs flashed in the moonlight. The face was that of a wolf. In an instant, those fangs were at my throat. Taloned hands tore the sword from my grasp. I beat at the horrible face with my clenched fist, but his jaws were fastened on my shoulder. His talons tore at my throat. Then I was on my back. The world was fading. Blindly, I struck out. My hand dropped, then closed automatically about the hilt of my dagger, which I had been unable to get at. I drew and stabbed. A terrible, half-bestial, bellowing screech. Then I reeled to my feet, free. There, at my feet, lay the werewolf. I stooped, raised the dagger, then paused, looked up. The moon hovered close to her zenith. If I slew the thing as a man, its frightful spirit would haunt me forever. I sat down, waiting. The thing watched me with flaming wolf eyes. The long, wiry limbs seemed to shrink, to crook. Hair seemed to grow upon them. Fearing madness, I snatched up the thing's own sword and hacked it to pieces. Then I flung the sword away and fled, never once stopping until the first light of dawn. Stick around after the credits for a brief word from some of our fellow indie podcasters, creators, and friends. There may even be some bloopers, outtakes, and bonus content as well. You have been listening to Octoberpod. Octoberpod is produced, edited, and directed by Edward October. The series co-producers are M.J. McAdams and Amber Jourdan. Logo and banner graphics by Jessica Good. Edward October character design by Nick Calavera. Select still photography courtesy of unsplash.com. Select music cues by Dr. Dreamchip and various other stock music and sound effects courtesy of freesound.org. Music from Bigfoot Apocalypse and Thorax, theme from Octoberpod, composed by Nico Vitesi. All other images, music, and FX cues, except where noted, are sourced from within the public domain. Follow us on YouTube at Octoberpod Home Video, on Instagram, and the app I still call Twitter at Octoberpod VHS, and on TikTok and Blue Sky at Octoberpod. Or find us and all of our links on the World Wide Web at Octoberpodvhs.com. For business inquiries or story submissions, email octoberpod@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this program, we'd be very pleased if you told your friends about us. And while you're at it, write us a 5-star or equivalent review wherever you're listening. The man who spoke to you was Mr. Edward October. Why not get away from it all? Why not book an idyllic cabin vacation? A stay at this cabin could be your last. Relax with the whole family in this cozy and rustic home away from home. This cabin is on the hunt for souls, and it's the setting for 13 spine-chilling tales of an evil that spans centuries. Discover the freedom and adventure that a cabin vacation can offer. A scientist discovers a horrific new species of insect. A child's keepsake becomes a deadly obsession. A ruthless businesswoman meets her match, and honeymooners uncover the dark secret of a rose-tinted mirror. Call now to choose from a variety of plants and amenities to suit your holiday needs. So check in, chill out, and drop dead at Cabin 187. Read Cabin 187 by Dan B. Fierce. Available on Amazon or at danbfiercebooks.com.
Do you have to throw on your favorite true crime podcast before bed in order to fall asleep? Same. And it's the very reason that I created Serial Napper. My name is Nikki Young, and I'm here to lull you to sleep or perhaps to give you nightmares with some of the craziest true crime stories that you've never heard of. Each episode of Serial Napper features a different true crime story told succinctly the way that it happened. Just the facts, ma'am. My focus is on unsolved crimes that need more attention, cold cases, and wrongful convictions. While true crime shows can sometimes be graphic in nature, I ensure that the story is told in a way that is respectful to the victims and their families. Now, when it's time for bed, you can look forward to 30 minutes of well-researched and detailed case files while you get your beauty sleep. Find Serial Napper on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Sweet dreams.
I gotta do one of these things again. This is Canary of the Canary PI audio drama. I'm just a run-of-the-mill PI trying to make a buck for his next corned beef sandwich. A magnet for the strange, a lure for the macabre. Sometimes the worst kind of monsters are very human. Other times, it's unexplainable. Peculiar short stories with a revolving cast of colorful characters. Say that 10 times fast. Mixing noir, horror, mystery, and drama. Reach us at rpcanarypi.carrd.co or look up Canary PI in your favorite search engine. Gotta go. Lunch is here. Hey, where's the pickle?
You see, there's this one time, me and Daddy-O, we went down there. Me and Daddy-O.
So, the way we pronounce it in Ireland is Daddy-O. So I think you're trying to say that Billy would say Daddy-O. So Dadjo is, okay, so I'll just do that again. 4. Dadjo is an affectionate term for an elder father in Gaelic. Very antiquated. Oh my God, very antiquated. Of course, the way Bill says it, it's very Americanized. He always says it like
That, my dear, is good old-fashioned West Virginia corn liquor. Ooh, let me see if I can get some ASMR on this.
Very antiquated. I can't say that word. Antiquated. And antiquated. There we go.
Oops. 40.
I've never heard these names if these are meant to be old Irish names.
How about some gore noises?
So we wouldn't say moonshine. We would say poachine. So I'll say moonshine in case that's what you'd like to say. And then I'll do poachine as well. 28. Do you mean moonshine? You mean moonshine?
Like, I get asked all the time, like, how do I start a podcast? And I was like, Terry used to do consulting. And so I'd be like, well, you could pay my friend to teach you how to do a podcast. That's one. Or Google is free. That's how we did it. And Google is better now than it was when we started. It has more information on how to do it. But then it's like, I recently had this experience where my nail tech, who I've been going to for a while, when I first started seeing her, was like, you sound really familiar. Do we know each other? And I was like, no, I don't think so. Right. Like, I have no clue who you are. My coworker came with me she like showed up. She'd Googled the place and showed up and was like, oh my God, this is a weird coincidence. And so we're sitting there and she was like, what are you doing this weekend? And I was like, oh, I'm recording for the podcast. My nail tech's like, oh, you're on a podcast. And I said the name of it. And she just like, you know how like you hear something, but you don't like absorb it. So the next time I go in, she's giving me a pedicure and I already have issues with feet. Like, I don't want people touching my feet. I don't want to touch your feet. Like, solid. I don't like it.
I'm too ticklish to ever get a pedicure. Like, it just would never, I can't imagine.
I have to like look at a point on the wall and like focus all of my energy on it to not like 1 kick or 2 giggle too hard. But, she's literally holding my foot. And she always has a show on, like she has a TV going. And so we were watching Queer Eye and Jonathan Van Ness was on it. And I was like, oh my God, here's like this really weird thing is that like a few times Morbid has like quoted Tara and I on the show. And I'm like, Jonathan is a huge fan of Morbid. So Jonathan Van Ness knows like my name and words I have said. And I'm like, this is amazing. And she goes, what's your podcast? She's literally holding my foot. She's like, what is your podcast name? And I was like, it's Three Spook Girls. She goes, oh my God, my best friend and my cousin and I all listen to your show. That's why you sound familiar. And I was like, Gabby, you need to put my foot down. Like, you can't have this conversation with you holding my foot because it's weird. And it's like, I know that I podcast, but then like, there's this whole other side of me that like forgets that I'm a podcaster because this is what I do in my house.
Run my fingers over it. Luxurious. Oh my God.
That if a werewolf is slain like a wolf, that if a werewolf, that if a...
On day 2 at the old homestead, Bill finds himself suffering from At day 2 at the old homestead, Bill finds himself suffering from an upset stomach. Oh my God, what's wrong with me?
Let's try that again. 80.
It was much more bearable when the kid... We would say kids, so I'm going to do both. It was much more bearable when the kids were here. It was much more bearable when the children were here.
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty all right. Pretty good. Robin, Ash, and Hood.
Oi, what's in those jars? Kerosene for lanterns? Oi, as you say here. Yeah, it's very English. We go, hey. Hey. Yo. I don't know where yo come out of there.